What's going on, guys? So, I want to bring up something that you're probably going to disagree with, but I would ask you to hear me out. I am very thankful that McDojos exist. Now, I understand that McDojos are not reality-based at all. They often have extremely oversimplified cookie cutter curriculums. They spend too much time, playing games that don't serve the actual ends of martial combat, etc., etc., etc. However, the reason that I appreciate McDojos is that they offer a very low barrier of entry into martial arts culture. Especially for kids, but even for older folks, these McDojo classes offer them a very low impact, low risk, high reward. There's just massive amounts of progression, colored belts and patches and certificates and things like that just make people feel like they're making a lot of progress. And it gets people into the movements, the ideas of things at a very low and at a very surface level. And it almost acts as kind of a vetting service, because those who want more, provided they don't become disillusioned, those who want more will often seek out a new school when they outgrow the previous one. Or in the case of many kids, they grow up doing kind of McDojo things. I don't want to pick on Taekwondo, but it's a well-known one. They grow up doing Taekwondo, they graduate high school, they're on their own, they go, man, I miss doing martial arts, let's try this thing over here. I want to do something that's more like they do in the UFC, or I want to do something more like what I see in the ADCC. And they start going, hey, I can do this, I can do this. Man, there's so many cool things out there. I want to try something new, but it's the same categorical thing that I kind of grew up doing. And that's a really, really cool thing. Especially for kids, this becomes an extremely valuable service because, kids don't need a lot of head contact anyway. And yes, you can modulate kids, head contact for kids in a serious school as well, and I understand that. But when you do a lot of low touch or your low impact or even non-contact sparring, you get them used to moving. You get them some conditioning, some flexibility, some dexterity, some coordination, without putting them at a lot of risk. And now look, I'm the first guy that will say, hey man, you got a kid that wants to do martial arts, sign them up for wrestling at school. I think that is a fantastic base, because you don't get better conditioning than that. You get strong, you get a lot of just like raw coordination and kind of understanding how your body moves through space. And yeah, it's not going to teach you how to punch and kick, but that's in some ways easier to learn than what grappling offers. So, wrestling is a fantastic place to start. The kids are much less likely to walk away with a concussion, much less likely to have brain damage than if they went, say, to boxing as a kid, or if they went to, MMA as a kid. And I think that is a fantastic thing, and I'm going to tell you this from personal experience. When I was in elementary school, my parents signed me up for wrestling. Now, you guys know, I teach catch wrestling, and I absolutely love wrestling, but when I was in elementary school, I hated it. I grew up in the era of Van Damme and Chuck Norris and, He-Man and Thundercats. I wanted to be like the action heroes, and they didn't wrestle, they punched, they kicked, they swung swords, and hell, I'm still interested in that stuff. But the fact is that as a kid, I wasn't interested in wrestling. It was hard, it was weird, it was difficult, and I was not a particularly competitive kid, and I was not a natural athlete, and I didn't understand how to progress through and become an athlete. That wasn't something that we were taught. That was just something that some kids were good and they kind of self-selected for those things, and some kids were not good, so they self-selected for other things. And so I ended up becoming kind of just a karate nerd, Kempo, but it's still karate, because I wanted to do Van Damme stuff. And my first school, I would not trade that experience for the world, but my first 5 years of martial arts experience were in a McDojo. And while I didn't learn how to fight there, I learned how to move my body. I got coordination and flexibility and conditioning. I lost weight. I was a chunky kid and I lost weight. And, you know, all of these things that were good for me to improve, and gaining that ability and confidence in myself, doing something that was not particularly competitive, gave me a chance to start appreciating the more competitive things. And lo and behold, you know, about 4 years later, after I moved away to college, I'd spent some time doing, Kempo in another school, and spent about almost 10 years doing Kempo, in total, 3 different Kempo schools over time, and all of that. But in 2004, I met my first MMA coach, and that changed the game for me, big time. I really started appreciating all those other pieces, the grappling, the boxing, and all of that, but it came through me appreciating Kempo. And at the second Kempo school I went to, we had the Savate, and that gave me an appreciation for kickboxing, which then gave me more of an appreciation for actual regular boxing, which then going to MMA, going, oh, well, there's grappling part of this too. Oh, now it's more than just takedowns, I can do submissions. Oh, this is the right way to do submissions. Now I understand this. And it progressed. And then, lo and behold, here I am 24 years later, after starting that journey as some kid in a McDojo in southern New Hampshire. And I run a full contact, multi-style martial arts school in Phoenix. And of course, I don't teach Kempo anymore. But between the Wing Chun, the kickboxing, and the catch wrestling, I wouldn't have gotten here if it hadn't been for that base in Kempo. And I still appreciate the Kempo. I think that Kempo is a fantastic toolbox for all its flaws in the training methodology and the arrogance and all the negativity that comes with that particular part of the martial arts culture. There were so many valuable things that I learned during that time that I would not trade for the world. And therefore, I cannot be that hard on McDojos. Yes, it's still upsetting to see people teaching things that are impractical and unrealistic. But the fact is that some people just aren't interested in walking into a boxing gym, an MMA gym, a jiu-jitsu school, a wrestling school. A lot of people aren't interested in that because it is too barbaric for their personality. It's too competitive for their personality. And for some people, it's just inappropriate. Children don't need brain damage. Nobody needs brain damage. But as an adult, you can make that decision. As a child, you're having somebody else make that decision for you, and your brain doesn't stop developing until you're out of college. So, you don't need to spend a lot of time taking a lot of headshots. And that means that something like Kempo or Taekwondo is a fantastic start for a kid who maybe doesn't want to join the wrestling team because, hey, they're not competitive and it's just weird and they don't like it and all that. So, look, I get it. There are definitely things wrong with McDojo culture, and there are things that are extremely upsetting about it. But at the end of the day, some people, no matter how much they enjoy the idea of martial arts, will not be your student because your training is too hard, too realistic, too painful, because unfortunately, painful and tedious tends to be the name of the game when you're training for real. And that's just not for a lot of people. And you might say, well, then they just shouldn't train. Okay, maybe, but at the same time, why not? Street fights are extremely rare, assaults are extremely rare. You might as well have some fun, learn a little bit of some kind of a skill, even if it's nothing more than punch and kick dancing, and feel good about yourself. Because at the very least, you're gonna walk away in better shape and feeling better about yourself than you did before. And I think that is a really powerful thing. So go ahead and be mad about McDojos teaching fake martial arts, but also consider what I've just said, and maybe don't be so hard on them. All right, guys, I'm gonna talk to you later, and yeah, good journey. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. In the links down below, you can find our social media, and I encourage you to follow us there. Take a look at our blog, where we have articles that go into depth that we just can't do in our video productions. And on top of that, go to our Amazon store and pick out a shirt that you like, and every little bit helps. If you're ever in the Phoenix area, look us up. Come in for a class, come in for open mat, whatever. Love to see you down here. You can find all our contact info on the website. Talk to you guys in the next one. Good journey.